sponsored in part by my supporters. If you'd like to help make this possible and see these videos early, stick around until the end. Just 2 more years. That's all it ever takes, right? For over a decade, Star Citizen has been just 2 more years in it, surviving mostly on hype. But that hype might finally be giving way to real delivery. As we progress through year 14, the path is clearer in hindsight. The promises were delivered and missed, the deadlines were passed and the systems were delayed, but eventually started to get shipped. From 4.0 being trotted out in 2017 to Squadron 42 now aiming for 2026, there's always been a carrot to keep the hype alive. Just enough to fund the engine, grow the company, and maintain the persistent tech demo players have been living in for over a decade. For years, hype did the heavy lifting for Star Citizen. Today I'll show you how CIG is shifting that weight onto tangible deliveries, and how they've started to shift more towards launching a game. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Ever since Star Citizen reached 3.0, what I'll call the old new Star Citizen, the approach has been to push. Launch features as fast as possible, make sure they work at a bare minimum, and then move on. This gave us great iterations on things like mining, the multi-tool, and planetary tech, but it also left behind half-finished and seemingly forgotten features, cargo decks, mounted turrets, and ship naming. From about 2017 to 2024, the real celebrities weren't gameplay updates, they were tech milestones. Every CitizenCon was like a red carpet event for the next big advancement. Object container streaming in 2018, finally pushing frame rates out of the single digits, I kid you not. Early persistence in 2020, finally allowing players to keep their belongings for more than just the next quarterly patch. Persistent entity streaming in 2023, hardening the database and allowing for things like salvage to actually come about. And this year, the long-awaited first step of server meshing. These were the carrots. Some landed cleanly, some overstayed their welcome, like really overstayed their welcome. They literally would not leave us alone. Alongside all this, though, came smaller gameplay-focused updates, flight model tweaks, new locations, occasional AI improvements. But let's be honest, the hype machine was running on the tech. Weekly shows like Star Citizen Live and Inside Star Citizen providing multiple hours a week of insight into the development process of the tech as well as speculation on what was coming next, while the actual game kinda trickled along in development, building out a foundation. And I'm talking some basic features. Ship purchasing only appeared in 2019, the ability to transfer money to your friend in 2020, and inventories and the first medical gameplay situation just showed up in 2021. Hell, we just got mini-maps last year. It was exciting in the moment to see the project inching forward with these advancements as the game engine incorporated some of the most basic things for the game they eventually wanted to make. But these updates didn't actually give most players a lot to sink their teeth into every time. It was very much like looking to see when that specific feature you were excited for might be showing up. And the game really only survived in that state because of the bigger hype at play surrounding the big moves like the tech advancements. The treadmill feeling was real. Server meshing in Squadron 42 always seemed like they were just 2 more years away. But now most of those tech arts are finally starting to come to a close. The Vulkan renderer, resource and engineering systems, static server meshing, and though I think this could age poorly, even Squadron 42. That turning point is why the conversation has started shifting from hype about what's coming to pressure about what's being delivered. And it's why, while many players haven't been seeing as many features in development in 2025, what is being delivered has many people feeling much more fulfilled. If you've played Star Citizen in the past year, you've probably noticed a shift. Updates now focus on 1 or 2 major player-facing anchors: a ship, a new location, a narrative beat, instead of a laundry list of features for us self-proclaimed roadmap watchers. It's no longer about putting out a list of features for you to pick out which one might be interesting to you, but rather to try and capture as many people's interest as possible with a more general, hard-hitting update. Trailers are highlighting world building and immersion more than the pipeline and the tool sets being focused on. And I don't even need to explain how Inside Star Citizen has just become an advertisement for whatever the upcoming update or ship is, but I will anyways. The under-the-hood work is still happening. Vulkan, hacking, scanning, quantum travel, flight tuning, those are all in development, but those are no longer the headline carrots. They're not the things we're constantly being reminded of. They rarely even get mentioned outside of monthly reports. CitizenCon in 2025 has been trimmed down to be a tighter 2-hour online broadcast. Concept-only ship sales were called off in 2025 for the remainder of the project, with all new assets being only in-game. And patch stability has become a priority, focusing on the player experience and avoiding the old cycle of Tier 0 features that break more than they fix. And like I said, this doesn't mean the carrots are gone. Squadron 42 in 2026, Star Citizen 1.0 in 2027 or 28, Maelstrom, refining gameplay, passenger transport, player-built stations, hell, new star systems. Even the announcement of 1.0 itself was another carrot that needed to prime expectations after server meshing finally started landing. Because after you've said something like this,
those are what we view as our sort of cornerstones that we need. When we get that, we feel like it will be a game like no other.
You'd better have a clear path set to build off of server meshing. While these updates are much more generally focused on gathering people's attention, looking at tangible in-game additions as opposed to building on the possibilities and potential of how these features could stack up in the future, the truth is, hype still has to exist. Games like this lose attention quickly in a world of constant new releases. Word of mouth and hype are unfortunately very valuable currencies to successful game studios. But the difference between a good and bad studio is the ability to actually deliver on that hype. And now I feel CIG can start to anchor itself in the live game and deliver on it sooner. So what changed here? Well, actually quite a bit. Stuff we've been covering pretty regularly over the past couple of years. Management reshuffles, the turbulent acquisition, a slow cultural shift away from promise first and more towards delivery first, even if those deliveries can be kind of broken still at times. Star Citizen has always tried to promise something unique, but until recently it was mostly theoretical. They are still relying on carrots for the hype and interest. There are still plenty of ways they are giving players something to imagine eventually playing. At the time of this writing, we're still waiting for the features to catch up. But at this point, updates are definitely landing differently, and they are absolutely moving more in the right direction ever since 4.0. A while ago, I released a video about my 4 years of covering Star Citizen at the time, where I did say that these systems would naturally come together as development moved forward. Looking back now, that wasn't the whole picture. It didn't just naturally happen. It took a lot of restructuring, pressure to deliver, and a fight to pay down the inevitable tech debt that piled up over the 3.x series of updates. It's not been an easy journey. Those painful tech advancements, though, are finally paying off, but not without a cost. And honestly, the fact that this project has survived long enough to reach this stage, in my opinion, is remarkable. Maybe we got lucky, and maybe the hype treadmill held just long enough for the engine and the studio to catch up. As long as CIG keeps moving from hype to tangible delivery, and Squadron 42 has a solid launch, I think the future looks bright for space nerds here. But CIG has their carrots, and if we keep hearing just 2 more years much longer, no amount of company-wide shifting is going to stop players from looking for greener pastures. Thank you for watching this video till the end. This is one of my more opinionated videos released early for supporters of the channel who make doing this possible. You can join on Patreon or here on YouTube and get exclusive early access to full-length videos every month, live access to our podcast every week, and behind-the-scenes updates regularly, and more as a thanks for making all this possible. If you've already decided to do so though, thank you so much. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.